Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the best and most successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, mindsets, and skill sets for you to conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle to achieve financial freedom. So today, I'm super excited to have a special guest with me today. He's not in the like real estate investing, but he's in a real estate entrepreneur. Super excited to get to talk to him. He is Bryan Casella, right? Bryan Casella is #1 ranked real estate educated by Inman, Los Angeles, and the best-selling author of Door-to-Door Mastery 101 and Listing Presentation Mastery. As founder and CEO of Team BC, the real estate industry's leading coaching and training company, Bryan's ever-growing influence impacts professionals in a wide variety of ways, including with rigorous accountability coaching. And Bryan has more than 30,000 hours of coaching experience and works daily to help agents and brokers grow a prosperous business while simultaneously balancing and loving their personal lives, which I love. So super excited. Before we actually get into the podcast, I just want to ask all of you for a favor. I want to ask that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value and insight, if you learn a new skill, if you get a mindset shift, if you get maybe some motivation or some inspiration, I want to ask you to please share this episode with some of your friends. Send it to someone who you know might be interested in real estate. Share it. Share it on your social media, on your story, on your as post. Share it and help us spread our message and help more people. And to all of you who do, thank you. So, Bryan, I'm super excited to talk to you, man. You're welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, bro. I like the setup, bro. You got the king's chair. You mean business, bro. So I like it.
Awesome, and thanks. So Bryan, the first thing that I do with my guest is I ask them to walk us through their real estate entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Yeah, bro. So I'll keep it short and sweet. I retired because of injury from playing basketball professionally overseas. I get back in the States. I already had decided prior to even finishing college that I wouldn't get a regular job. I looked at real estate and made sense. I looked at it from the standpoint of what I brought to the table, not what I was lacking. And I saw very quickly that I could get in the business as a traditional agent and do very well. I jumped in. I embraced the old school stuff. I did 123,000 in gross commission my first year. Then I did 250, 350, and it just took off from there, man. And fast forward today, I have a nationwide team. I do the coaching and the training. I've spoken nationally, internationally. I've done it all, bro. And it all started from having the vision and embracing entrepreneurship, 100%.
Cool. So you were a basketball player, man. How tall are you?
6'2". I'm not that tall.
You're not that tall. Well, you're pretty tall, right? Taller than most.
Yeah, but the funny thing is when you show me on a basketball team, I'm always the smallest guy or the second smallest guy. So when you look at us all lined up, I'm either the shortest or the second to shortest.
So you used to play overseas. Where was that?
In Spain.
Spain, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you got hurt, or what stopped you from keeping on playing?
Yeah, so my first ankle injury happened near the end of my college career, and I got surgery, right? But then the second one was even worse on the same ankle. And when I got the second surgery, it took me a really long time to rehab, and my foot was never really the same. So even passing like a physical examination with the team became more difficult, and it became kind of like a red flag. So some teams didn't want to sign me, and it became kind of like a thorn in my side in regards to continuing my career. So that's why I decided to stop playing.
Cool, man. So before I get into the into your jump in real estate, how was that like what's the opposite of onboarding?
Was it what?
What's the opposite of onboarding? Like disemboarding? I'm
Oh,
Mexican, so
offboarding, I
so
guess.
offboarding. There you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
So how did the offboarding of you going out of basketball, which you
Yeah.
probably been playing for a long while, you probably identified as a basketball player, right? How did that go, man?
I mean, it was horrible, bro. You know, when you grow up with those dreams of like being in the NBA or making it to the top, and at that time, I wasn't the man that I am now. I was, 23, 24 years old, and I wasn't willing to accept that that's life. I played the victim. I was complaining. I was like, why me? And I kind of played that sob story for 6 months or a year, and it was tough, bro. It was tough. I felt like I had my dream taken away from me, and I felt
Man,
like it was unfair, and I complained a lot about it. But once I kind of clicked mentally and figured it out, everything changed quickly. But those 6 months to a year after I did it, bro, was very difficult. It was probably the lowest time in my life, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It was pretty tough.
for sure. So and then, for you to be a basketball player, you must have had this like go getter, this like driven personality, right? But then you had a dip and you were in this victim mode, right? Victim mentality for like to a year, which is where most people are, right? Mentally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, for most of their lives, right? But something clicked for you, right? Something helped you get out of that and then go back into your achiever mode mentality,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
what was it, man? What made it click, right? Like in those 6 months to a year, what made it click?
Well, living that way, bro, is miserable, right? Like we know a lot of people get caught up in it, but you get to a point where you're like, man, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of not feeling good. I'm tired of being in a bad mood. I'm tired of feeling stuck, And then a combination of that would be proper perspective. You start to think about your situation. And at the time, I'm 24, 25. I'm like, dude, I have my whole life ahead of me. Yes, whatever happened with basketball happened, but moving forward, I'm only 24, 25 years old. I have a ton of potential left, something else. Let's redirect that work ethic and that spark towards something else. So it's a matter of, I think, getting sick of your sickness, I guess is kind of what they call it. But at the same time,
Yes.
having a proper perspective and starting to use your intelligence as a human being, because a human being is incredible. And the intelligence mechanism that we have is what separates us from animals. And once you start to tap into that, like I started in my mid 20s, it changes the game for you because now you tap into the superpower that the human being has compared to every other animal on this planet.
Yeah. So I think you have a program called Super Beam, something like that, right? Or no?
That's my podcast, bro. Supreme Being. Yeah.
Okay.
Because to me, when I created the podcast, when I started on social media, man, I've been doing it a long time, but everybody just sees me as a real estate guy. So when I started the podcast about 4 or 5 years ago, it was my first kind of step out of that realm to say, hey, I
Cool.
can talk about a lot more. I'm well informed on a lot of subjects. Let me use this as a way to step outside of the real estate and business world. So I have a separate platform now to speak my mind about whatever I want and not be put into a box. Because even on my channel, at the time, I had amassed like 100, 150,000 subscribers. And anytime I made a video that wasn't specifically about real estate or sales,
No views.
some people would complain. Oh,
Yeah.
just talk
Okay.
about real estate. It's like, dude, you have to be much more well-rounded than
Stay in
just
your
the
lane.
real estate guy. And the interesting part is I would tell them, I'm like, that's the reason you follow me and I'm successful is because I know about much more than just real estate. So it was interesting to see
Exactly.
that. But that podcast stemmed from that. It was my stepping out party to say, this is a platform now where I'm going to talk about anything and everything, and it's completely open. And I've been doing it ever since.
Cool. So do you interview people? Is it you by yourself, just talking your mind out, or what format does it have?
I would say probably 90% of it is me, 20, 30-minute type lecture type, episodes. But every once in a while, I'll interview people. I wanted to be separate because I feel like it is big to interview people. And I said, man, that's fantastic. And I could, but I would rather stick to a lecture teaching platform with my stuff because that's what I wanted to keep separate in regards to my branding was I wanted to focus primarily on that, not just interview people. So in the future, if I do begin to like on a large scale interview people, I think I'm going to create a separate podcast or a separate platform just for that because
For
I
sure.
wanted to continue with that lecture format. I really enjoy it the most. And I feel like I
And
bring
you're
the
good at
most
it,
out of
man.
myself when I do that.
You're like a natural teacher. Like you. That's what you do. You teach.
I'm glad you said that, bro, because I wouldn't consider myself a natural teacher. Even back in the day, I turned into a different animal when I was on the basketball court. Outside of basketball, I wasn't necessarily known as a shy kid, but I kept to myself more. But on the basketball court, I was very vocal, very intense, very competitive, very much a leader. People said on the basketball court, I was the captain, and I was a captain for most of my teams. So what I did was I learned and I tapped into that. I said, why, when I step on the basketball court, I turn into this animal that just innately
Yeah.
has the natural leadership, like you said. So I started to kind of decode that, and then through my own studies as well, I started to uncover more about human psychology and all that stuff, and I really dove deep into that and started studying like neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, evolutionary psychology, like so many other subjects, conversational hypnosis. I just really geeked out about the human being. And once I kind of figured that stuff out, it was easy for me to start picking and choosing all these attributes and then applying it to, whatever I wanted.
Cool, man. I really like that. So look, man, there's a couple of things that really like intrigue me, and I know well we should, right? We quote unquote should be talking about real estate, but like you said, right? All of the other things of my life that I do that I know about are the reason why I'm successful in real estate, right? So what I want to ask, what really intrigues me, man, and has caught my attention is that you have this the chakras, I think, right on the back in the back of
Yep.
you, and then Nikola Tesla, which I love. I love that guy. I love his quote that says, I don't know what it says there because I can't read it, but I love his quote that it says that if humans would focus on, and this is not exactly how it says, right? But if humans would focus on the unseen, right, like the metaphysical, they would be able
Mhm.
to make like years, like tens of years of
Yep.
progress in the physical, right? If they would focus on understanding the metaphysical. So I really like Nikola Tesla. And then there's another thing of background. I think it's from the Matrix, right? Is it?
Yeah, I have the Matrix portrait. I have the flower of life right there. I have a bunch of Kobe pictures. I'm in Miami now, but I'm from LA, so I have an LA poster right there. I have another Miami poster there. I got a bunch of stuff here, bro.
So yeah. So what intrigued me are those three, right? Those three metaphysical. They're like related, right? Like the chakras, Nikola Tesla, and the Matrix. So I think I it feels like you might be into studying the unseen, right? The metaphysical. So tell me about that.
Well, absolutely, bro. There's a code that governs everything. What governs the attraction between men and women? It's something
Polarity.
unseen, right? It's
Oh
in
yeah, for
it's in
sure.
our DNA, or we can say polarity. We can quote a bunch of things, but we didn't in quotes discover it. It's always been there. We just noticed it, right? There's a
It's
reason why
felt.
in general individuals are different, but we still have an underlying code that governs everything about us. Same thing with attraction. And when I say attraction, I don't mean sexual. I just mean piquing interest, right? I know how to speak in a way and present myself in a way that regardless of who you are, you'll be interested and attracted to what I'm saying. That's the code, right? In simple layman's terms, that's what we're talking about when we say the unseen. So when I look and I observe, the world, and I say, wow, how does that, plant grow, right? You give it water, it gets sunlight, and it grows. Yeah, we've broken that process down, but there's still something happening there that refers to the unseen. So as I looked outside of this, which has become our addictions, right? The phone, as I looked into the world, I naturally had that childlike interest peaked again, right? As a child, you're like that. You wonder everything. You see somebody do something cool as a kid, you'll walk up to them and say, "Hey, it's Mr. Stranger. How did you do that?" Right? You have that natural interest in everything. And I think when people start to do that and studying it from the proper perspective, I think the way people study it now, they don't study it. They just watch videos and they think they know stuff. They don't actually study it. And I think that's the
Mhm.
difference, is taking a genuine interest in this subject or any subject and really studying it and saying, okay, let me decode the human being, right? How do I relate better to a child or an adult or the opposite sex? What do I need to do, right? What are their underlying mechanisms of attraction or repulsion, right? What makes them come closer to me? What repels them, right? And I think that's when you start getting into that stuff, because it's a genuine curiosity for our nature and the world. And I think once you've broken out of what you said earlier, the misery, complaining, victim mindset, you open up your mind to now really start tapping into that and studying and learning versus complaining and feeling like you're a victim of circumstances, which is very, if we're going to go back to the chakras, that root chakra, you're very at the bottom, right? Like you're just stuck.
Survival, yeah.
Right? Survival, exactly.
So man, I recently connected with a woman. Her name is Susan Bratton, and she basically made her living in like teaching about sex, right? Teaching couples how to reignite their flame, how to like get their passion back, how to have better sex, and everything that has to do with that. And I had her on my Modern Queens podcast, and she really resonated with me after I told her my story and after we talked about like my mission and stuff. And I just got married, right? And I told her about that I got married. And then at the end of the interview, she gifted me $35,000 in courses and programs and ebooks and stuff, right? She just like emailed her assistant, emailed me, and then told her to give me access, like lifetime access to all of her stuff, right?
Dope.
Because she was like, Alex wants to do a great, he just got married, he wants to do a great job, so give him lifetime access to all of our programs.
Nice.
And that was great, that was great, right? And I've been reading a couple of her stuff, and I came across one thing, man. Maybe you know something about this, so I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Which is like the part of reigniting the flame with your significant other.
Mhm.
And there's 3 steps, right? The first step is polarity. Inside polarity, there's 3 steps. It's creating polarity, right? Like balancing out the energy. So, for example, if you have a masculine woman, right? Well, you got to be more masculine to balance her out, and then have like a neutral, right? Have polarity. If you have a feminine woman, well, you've got to take charge and be the masculine, right? So that she can be attractive to you. So polarity creates attraction. So that's the first step. And then the second step is trust and then surrender. So the reason that you got to create polarity and you got to bring yourself, your masculinity up, and is to make her feel like she could trust your masculine, right? So that she can trust that you're the foundation where all of her femininity will rest upon, and then she'll trust you, and then she'll surrender. Yep. And I was like, damn, this is spiritual, right? Like that's exactly what you do in life. So things happen in life, circumstances, events, and they're not good or bad, right? Masculine or feminine, they're not good or bad. They just are. Yeah. And what they are is that they're for you, right? That's what they are. They're not good or bad. They're just for you. And you gotta like neutralize those events or circumstances. Actually, a really nice definition for wisdom. I've come up with it is, I didn't come up with it. I just got inspiration. Is the speed at which you can transcend circumstances and events, neutralize them, and obtain the lesson. Right. That's like my definition of wisdom. So things that happen in life are not good or bad. They're just for you, and you gotta neutralize them. Right. Polarity. And then you got to trust the process. You got to trust that those things are taking you wherever it is that you want to go, or wherever it is that God or the universe wants thinks is the best for you. And then you just surrender. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. And then that's when I realized, that sex, man, is like literally like the door to the unseen, right? To like understanding the unseen, right? Like becoming one with your partner could probably teach you a lot during sex, right? Could probably teach you a lot about becoming one with the world and with everyone else around you. But we're like fucking confused. Like everyone is scared of sex. Like sex is like the #1 insecurity of man and money. And we just got it all wrong, man. Right?
Well, look at society, man. They, I feel, and again, I don't know where your show is at with this, because this stuff becomes controversial. I believe gender roles are almost switching, where men are becoming women and women are becoming men. And then she substituted the word submit with surrender, right? But basically the same thing. Now I hear a lot of girls say, "Oh, I'm never going to submit to a man." And I'm like, well, that's why you're single, and that's why you've never had a good man, right? Like, they don't, they think that's weakness. It's not, because you said it correctly. It's not good or bad. It's what it is, right? We put that human pollution on it, which is, oh, this is bad, this is good. No, it just is, right? But a lot of people, again, don't have the mental maturity to view these things like that, right? They keep saying, no, women are better than men and all this other stuff, and it becomes this issue. But why do you think, look at divorce rates, they're high. Most people are miserable in their relationships. They just won't admit it because, like you said, sexually, but just in a relationship in general, they're insecure. So we live in a world that's plagued with a lot of problems. But this type of information is again, it's shunned, it's blocked, it's not talked about. And unfortunately, bro, that's just the way it is. So what I do, and I'm assuming you do the same thing, is, the people that are close to you in your proximity or listening to this podcast or my podcast, we do our best to disseminate the information and make sure that not only we give the information, but that we become living embodiments of it. Right.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
I like teaching my students and my team members and everybody else. This is how you be a man. This is what it's like to be a man. Right. Notice how people respond to me when I come around. Right. Notice how, even if I don't open my mouth when I'm somewhere, my presence, look how people respond. Right. It's not how I'm talking to them or them knowing who I am. Just watch. Right. That's a demonstration of it. And I think that's the missing key today is a lot of people talk, very few people can embody and demonstrate. And when we start doing that more and focusing on that more, that's what I believe will, at the individual level, change, which then causes that ripple effect to the masses.
Cool. So is that what it entails in like supreme being, or tell me a little bit about how do you define a supreme being? Supreme
Well,
being, or yeah.
the podcast is everywhere, bro. If you go on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, like, you'll find it. It's there. But like I said, it's more general. I'll touch on these topics, but it's not specifically for one thing in
Got
regards
it.
to the
Okay.
subject matter. We just leave it open. So it's more about what's going on in my mind. Sometimes I talk about sales. Sometimes we'll talk about relationships. I mean, it's here, there,
Everything.
everywhere.
I like it. Okay, cool, man. So so you got out of that, emotional dip. Took 6 months, a year, and then you got into your achiever mentality. You went into real estate, got your license, made a couple more than hundreds of grand, I think you said, in your first year, and then it took off, right? So now you have a nationwide team. Tell me about that nationwide team.
Well, I originally always had the idea, and Team BC is my brand, right? Those are my initials, and everything I did, I always hashtag Team BC, right? That was just a name that I always created from day one, even before I had a team. And the thought was always there. I just said, things have to align, right? We have to create our team here locally in Southern California. We have to do our thing. And then later on the horizon, on the goal board, is go nationwide. You fast forward till it was right around when, and you can't even say this word anymore, when the C word happened, right? And everything shut down. Right after
Okay.
that, a couple people from my coaching group, right? My initial leadership contacted me. They're like, hey, what do you think about taking Team BC and going nationwide? I said, perfect timing. I had just been talking about it. We just need to find the proper, 2-3 people to start with in regards to leadership, and we can get it started. So I got with the leadership. We drafted up the contracts, and from there, from my own coaching students, I birthed Team BC. They became my regional leaders, right? So we had leadership on the East Coast, on the West Coast, right? In Florida and the South. And from there, we started recruiting, and we got 15, 20 agents right from the get-go. And since then, we've just been building it, man. So it's been fun. Social media obviously has facilitated that a lot, because I already had a big brand before we started. But that first 6 months or year, I was just touring the United States. I would go to Tennessee, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and we would
Cool.
have meetups and trainings. And then from there, I would recruit people. So every city we were going to, I was recruiting 2, 3, 4 people, and it just started exploding after that.
Cool, man. And then those agents, they sell real estate, right?
Yeah, correct.
And then so I'm just trying to like understand the business model. Could you explain it a little bit more, so just so that I could have a better feel for what it's about, how
Yeah.
it works?
So traditional real estate, right? Like if I'm just an agent, you sell and you make a percentage, right? And
Yeah.
then, if I'm with a company like Century 21, if I close a $10,000 commission, the company will keep, 10%, 20%, whatever you negotiate, and then you keep the other 80%, and that's what you close, right? When you run a nationwide team like this and you create a big team, whether it's local or nationwide, what I do is I create the structure, I have everything in place, but I take a percentage from every deal, right? So the way I set it
Cool.
up is I get a percentage from every deal that I do here locally, and any deal closed nationwide. So with my structure with the team, they have a back end roster of all my people. They keep track of all the transactions, and I get a percentage cut from every single transaction that we close nationwide. And that's how I run the business, and that's how me as the leader, I would make the money. I get a piece of every single deal that we close as Team BC.
Cool. That's awesome, man. And so to recruit people, you use your like front end coaching programs, right? Real estate coaching programs. Is that right?
Part of it, yeah. Also, I would always kind of do these local events and I would tour and people would show up. These events would be free. I would do some training. And then there I would have one of my local representatives there too. So if somebody was interested, then we can set up an interview and see. But as a requirement to join my team, I always made people join my coaching because to me, that was a good way of gauging to see where they're at. When I joined real
Yeah,
estate,
if they're committed.
I got into coaching. Even though I didn't have a lot of money and I wasn't in the right position, I said, this is what I got to do to be successful, right? I need to commit myself to this. I need to learn from the best, right? And even how they react when I tell them that tells me a lot. If they're already like, no, 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 I won't even add them to the team, even if they seem like they would be good, because to me that's a mindset check, right? I had no
Yeah,
problem. They would tell me to sign up.
scarcity
I said, okay, where do I sign? Like I'm ready. Let's go.
for sure.
You know, because I want that level of commitment. Um, but yeah, you know, the free tours, the social media through the coaching program. I mean, I had so many avenues. People would DM me on Instagram too, and we would have some basic interview questionnaire, pretty simple stuff. But because the brand is so big and we have the podcast, the YouTube channel, I always had people coming in. I was getting applications like every day nationwide.
Cool, man. So then people go through your coaching programs, through your real estate coaching programs, and then that's the requirement to even become part of Team BC, right? And I'm assuming that these coaching programs are not free, right? So have you had an instance where people just like buy your coaching program and don't want to be part of Team BC, or do they always become part of Team BC?
Oh yeah, there's a ton. There's a ton of people that even when I joined, right? I got coaching, but I didn't want to be a part of a team. I wanted to build my own empire. So I
You just
understand that
wanted to
mindset.
learn, right?
Yep. And I said, because a lot of people were recruiting me too, because they saw my work ethic. I said, nah, man, I want to build my own empire. It's no
Nice.
disrespect to anybody else. I just want to do my own thing. So I have a ton. I would say, I think we have 300 and something active members in the coaching right now. I think maybe 30 of them, 35 are part of Team BC. The other 90% are on their own, just doing their own thing, or they have their own teams. Like we have a lot of people in there making 200, 400, 500, $600,000. So they're doing really well.
Nice, man. I really like that. And talking about, I think this is a super important lesson that I just recently learned, less than a year ago, that I don't want to breeze over, that I want to share with the audience. Right? You talk about, people, once you tell them that, what, you want to be part of Team BC, you gotta buy my coaching programs. And then just by the reaction, you can tell a lot about them, right? And that's like a filter to work with your ideal partner, right? With your ideal client, right? And I just recently, man, was able to take in the idea of and understand the idea of like your ideal client in marketing, right? So
Yeah.
like before, I used to create a marketing video and I used to want to cram all the information that I wanted to say in like 10 seconds, right? Because of scarcity, right? I thought that that people had a short attention spans, which they do, but the right people will be interested and will watch. And I just wanted to have scarcity and I wanted to just reach everyone in the shortest amount of time possible. And I wanted to work with everyone and I didn't understand like marketing. I was like a tugboat, right? Like I wanted
Yeah.
to go to people, like hook them and then bring them back. That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
Right. And I finally understood that you gotta be a lighthouse, right? And let people come to you. And now, I have no problem doing like a 2-3 minute video because I know that the right people will come, right? And
Yep.
will watch the video if they're a good fit. So even with my podcast, right? Like I told you at the beginning, I sent you a video. I don't know if you watched it, but at the beginning I told you a little bit about me because right from that, right, it takes a couple of minutes to tell you, but I can see if you are going to resonate with me or not. And it's very important now. It's more important now to have quality and volume than just volume, right?
Absolutely, bro. I mean, even within what I'm doing, what I call Team BC University, I have it all broken down. I have the Team BC Intensive. I have this first tier coaching program. I have a second tier one. All of them have full descriptions of what the result is when you go through it, what the ideal customer looks like, right? How much money they're making, what position they're in. Like it's all broken down and specific. So I know exactly if I get in front of a room, who I'm talking to, where they fall. I mean, it's all there, and you have to have it, especially if you want to run a business at that level. You need to be very specific and clear about who you're marketing to and who your ideal customer is, because then when you do present the package, it has to be enticing to that person, right? So there's a lot of little pieces, man. But same thing with you. Like that's something that you learn over time, right? Like this
Yeah.
marketing thing, the social media thing, the sales thing. You're not going to get it overnight. It's a constant work in progress. And that's another thing that I notice even in my industry is people are so impatient, right? They want to come in and be the man in a month. I'm like, dude, it's going to take some time. Relax.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you fix that? I mean, well, I don't know if it's something that needs to be fixed, but how do you accept that it's going to take more time? How do you become more patient, man?
Well, I think that has to do with a lot, man. I think there's a mindset aspect of it. There's the support system that you have in place. And I think a lot of it too has to do with what the end goal of the person is and if they've identified within themselves like a strong purpose behind that, right? Beyond making money in real estate, I knew what it would do for me as a human being and as a man. And I think that was one of the core drivers behind it. I knew it would completely revolutionize my character and my communication. And I said, this is the ticket, man. I'm not exactly sure what the end is going to look like, but I can feel it. It's going to be amazing. So regardless of what I have to go through, it's worth it. And in the process, yeah, I'm going to learn business, learn real estate, entrepreneurship, make money. It's going to be great. But who I'm going to be and become on the other side of it, to me, is that burning desire, like Napoleon Dynamite would say. It was that, man, that's the man I want to be. I want to be the one speaking on stage. I want to be the one with rock star confidence. I want to be the one that leads a team. I want to be the one that every step that I take, the ground shatters. You know what I mean? Like, that's who I want to be. And that to me was just as important, if not more important, than just the money. And I think for a lot of people coming in, they get blinded by the people on social media with Lambos and all that stuff.
The material things.
Yeah. And like I tell people, it's like, I don't even talk about it. I owned the Lamborghini for 3 years and I sold it. Yeah, people used to see it, but like, I was like, okay, you know, like that's, to me, that's like kindergarten, right? Like, cool, you got it. Good for you. Right. But it's not that big of a deal. We have to look beyond it. Like what's beneath it? Was there a reason that you wanted it, or was it just to look cool on Instagram? Like, if you remember people that were around when I was a kid, I had a poster of a Lamborghini on the wall and I was telling everybody I want to buy a Lambo when I grow up. Right. So for me to fulfill that dream was much more than just I wanted to flex on IG. But so many people are blinded by that. There's no purpose behind what they want to do. And I asked them, who do you want to be in a year, 5 years? What do you see yourself doing? And I never get a clear answer. So, well, I just want to make some money, bro. I want to make 6 figures. But why 6 figures? Why not 7? Why not 500,000? Why not 200,000? Like, there's no specificity, man. And people are so pulled by other people's goals and desires that they never connect with themselves and say, what do I want? Who do I want to be? And really have that retrospective conversation to where even here, I got a notebook, get a notebook and a pen, man, and start writing, right? I have these laying around everywhere, in my car, in my house, right? I have piles of them that I can refer from like 2015 and 14, what my ideas were, what my goals are. And when I look, I've accomplished all that shit, right? But I was obsessing about it and writing about it, and I knew what I wanted. And the number one issue, to answer your question, is people's goals and what they write, their business plan, their goals, their aspirations. They're not theirs. They're someone else's. That's the difference. It's their friend that told them that, their uncle, or what they think is going to be cool on Instagram. It's not what they want or who they want to be. It's what somebody else put in their head. And that's why they're having such a big problem, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Exactly. That you hit it in the spot. And then it's about who you're being, right? And who you're going to be. Not so much about the goal, but about who you become in the process. And when you understand that, then you can give yourself the opportunity to enjoy it, to enjoy the process and be patient and know that as time passes by, you get closer to that being that you're going to become when you achieve the goal by as a result of becoming that being, right? So like with the gym, man, I used to be very impatient, right? I used to, like, every time I went to the gym, I would like take my shirt off, stand in front of the mirror, and I was expecting for me to be jacked, right? I wanted to be jacked every time I went to the gym. And now, like, I realize that if I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, right, I might as well, work hard and push myself and be consistent and be disciplined and everything, but and actually enjoy it and not go just for the result, but go because I like to go, right, for the process, right, for what it makes me feel, and for who it helps me become. So once you understand that, I think you can become a lot more patient, and especially if what you're working for is something that you actually want, and not something that somebody else told you should want, or
Yeah.
somebody else told you that is, success or whatever. So yeah, man. Cool. So great insights. So man, so real estate agents. So do you have you dealt with real estate investing before?
Yeah, I've invested quite a bit myself. When I started my first deal, actually, I was out door knocking, right? Because I built my business cold calling and door knocking. I was door knocking in LA, and I came across somebody who, again, was interested in selling, but they were in a kind of a desperate situation. So at the time, I was still coming up. I contacted one of my friends at my first brokerage, and we ended up doing a JV, and we bought the property off market. It was a duplex, and to this day, we
Cool.
still own it. We rent it out, and we split all the profit on it. So that was my first kind of investment deal, was a door knock that I ended up buying off market for, I mean, shit, we bought that property for like 200 and 240. I think we bought it. And in LA, even in the hood, that's fucking super cheap. Now that duplex is worth like 650, right? It's
Cool.
crazy. And then from there, I learned other strategies, tax deeds, right? I bought 4 tax deed properties in Houston, Texas. That was my second kind of stint doing real estate investments. I bought some properties out here in Florida too, some condos that I Airbnb, because I moved out here to Florida 2 years ago, and I told myself within 2 years I want to buy 2 more properties, and within I think 18 months I bought both of them. I also bought a boat slip because I'm going to get into the tourism industry here. I'm going to buy a boat and some jet skis and rent them out. So that's a business that I'm going to create. So I think in total now I have 9. Well, if you count the boat slip, I think it's 10 pieces of property that I own.
Nice. Cool, man. Um, so what do you say is your main? So you built your business on door knocking and cold calling. So and that's a lot that you teach about, right? So what do you think is like your main thing, man? Your main like skill set? It's like sales? It's like speaking, leadership? Like if you could pinpoint into something, what do you say is like the main quality that you have, the main trait that has allowed you to, to come all this way?
Man, one thing, shit. That's tough to boil it down to one thing, man. I would say just I will outwork everybody, man. That's really what it is. Because
I thought you were
nobody,
gonna say that.
yeah, nobody. If you talk to people that knew me when I was a kid or high school or whatever, they wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, I knew Bryan was going to be like a salesman or a speaker for sure." Like he already had it. Nobody would tell you that. Everyone was like, "Dude, you're getting into real estate. You're out of your mind. What are you doing getting into real estate? That's the last thing you should do." That's what people were telling me, right? But it's like we were talking about earlier. We might have been talking about it even off the recording. The ability of the human being, man, it's endless. So when you break out of the construct mentally of saying I'm this or I'm that, and we see this all the time. Oh, I'm from LA, so I can't be that way. Oh, I'm from here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a woman. I have to do this. I'm a man. I have to do that. Mentally, right? We shackle ourselves when we do that. So the people who might be watching this and say, "Oh, I'm an introvert." Well, you accepted that identity and you're wearing everything that comes with it. You also have the ability to release it and then create what you want. How about you be an introvert and an extrovert if we're going to play that game? Because you can do both. You can build the capacity to do both. I can go out, tonight with a couple people and be the life of the party, or I can sit there quiet talking to one person and have a great time. Either one. I can do either one, and so can anybody else. If you start adopting that mentality, that's the difference, bro. Is I was just a lot more open and willing to work hard and say, "Oh, that guy does something I can't do. I want to learn. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to learn it." Right. And when we play this game, entrepreneurship, sales, communication, it's not like maybe basketball where if you were born 3 feet tall, you ain't gonna make the NBA, man. I'm sorry. Right.
Yeah.
This is different. Anybody can learn. You can be from anywhere, anytime, any place, any language, and you have the same opportunity. But it's just really that. Like I don't look at the same obstacles that other people see and see an obstacle. I just say, hey, that's
Yeah.
another speed bump for me to get over, bro. Why not?
Cool.
You know?
See, and that's wisdom, right? So it's not about whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, but it's about realizing that you could wear both of those outfits, right? You could literally take on and take off identities, in whatever way you please. And you just gotta be open to that possibility, and then if you're willing to accept it, and you can practice it, and then all of a sudden you become good at adapting and being flexible. So that's awesome, man. So did you learn this like limitless mindset?
I think it's just my continuing, we can say, dedication to education, bro. Like I never, and I'll be real with people, I never picked up a book and really developed myself, like personal development, reading, courses, events, till after my basketball career. So I was well into my late 20s, right? I'll be 37 this year, man. I didn't start doing that stuff till I was like 27 years old, 26, 27 years old. So
You look very young, man.
yeah. And
Maybe 34, 32.
yeah.
So
And
good job.
I appreciate it, bro. And so I tell people, but the moment you learn a little bit and then like you get a light bulb moment, we can call it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh dang. And then you learn something else and then something else. And then, oh, what they taught me before wasn't true. This guy actually got the result doing something different, right? Like it just starts, you start opening, right? Because really when you read, aside from the information, you're getting someone else's experience and a different perspective on something, whether it's a subject that you know about or one that you don't know about. And the more you accumulate that and can reference many things, I call it, this is something I teach people. It's like, get more reference points. The more reference points you have for something, the more you can step into this kind of mentality and mindset that we're talking about, because you have multiple frames of reference. Versus if you have one point of reference from one person at one point in time, that might not be enough. That might not be the one that serves you the best. So when I tell people, what's your belief on this? And they say, oh, money is the root of all evil. I ask them, how does
Yeah.
that belief serve you? Right? And they say, well, yeah, it keeps me shackled. Great. Have you even explored other beliefs and then tried them and said, hey, let's go with the opposite? Money's the root of all good. Wear that for a week and see how the world responds to you. Try that out. You don't have to believe it forever, but try it out for a day or two and let me know how the
Cool.
experience changes, right? Then when people start doing this, and but again, they have to be open to it. We have to have the individual step up and say, I want to change. I'm sick of this, or I need help and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Please help me. Like we need that
There you
person.
go.
I don't just go around preaching this stuff to anybody. If you come and you need help and you're willing to accept it, I will help you with open arms, right? But I'm not going to shove it down people's throats, because that was a mistake that I made. I'm learning. I'm like, oh, I want to tell
Me too.
everybody. Yeah, I want to tell
Yeah,
everybody.
for sure.
But that's a problem, because they're like, dude, I didn't ask for your help. Leave me alone. And then they're not going to be
Yeah,
receptive to what you're talking about, you know?
exactly, man. And it's about being open, right? Because a lot of people rather would prefer the certainty, right? And of whatever the circumstances is, and being unhappy with it, than the uncertainty of going out, right? Being
Yep.
open to another possibility, and the uncertainty of maybe failing or maybe falling on your face, right? And having to get up again. But more, most people just prefer to stay certain and unhappy than uncertain and going for fulfillment, right? And well, we gotta serve the people that are open, that are determined, that want to change, that want that the information, and those are the people that we need to be serving. We need to be there for. So yeah, man, I really like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I mean, look at the people, like you brought up, one of the most difficult categories for people to handle is finances, right? Someone's not happy, they'll come to you or me and say, I'm not happy with my finances, and we'll recommend something. But again, they're comfortable with their little bit. They're comfortable with the set of problems that they have. They're not willing to potentially take on new ones or different ones. So they'll reject what we say and still complain and stay in their circumstance because of this lack of being open to something new. Because they said, well, I already know this is bad. Maybe something over there is even worse. So I want to stay with this because this isn't that bad. Right. And then they start with the justification. Well, it's not that bad. It's okay. Right. I want to do better, but I'm okay. I'm eating. I have a roof over my head. I'm fine. But 5 minutes ago, they just told you that they're sick of it. They want to provide more for their family, more for their children, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. So, um, it's innately what we fear as human beings, the unknown. Like the example I
Yeah.
give people is, if I grab anybody and drop them in like a pitch black area, like a field, and I leave them and I'm like, hey, I checked this area, you're good, you'll be fine. But the moment I leave, they've never been there. Even though I told them that, they're still going to be scared. It's not going to be until the third, fourth, fifth night that they're going to start feeling more relaxed, because nothing has happened. That first night, they're not going to sleep. Every little sound, they're going to be like, what was that? Even though I told them, you're okay. Why? Because we fear the unknown as human beings innately. We don't know what it is. I mean, bring up death to people and look how crazy they get, right? They don't know, right? We can have all these discussions about it, but people freak out, or they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, right? They become very sensitive to it. So um, I understand why people are hesitant with the unknown, but at the same time, we can't allow the unknown to stop us from exploring something, because then
There you go.
that becomes a self-imposed barrier now. Because yes, I understand it's an emotion that we're feeling. However, if you allow the emotion to stop you, that's your own personal responsibility. You have to accept the fact that you're allowing that to stop you, because it's not a legitimate barrier, it's a self-imposed barrier.
And understanding that, man, is so simple, but it's literally the key, right? Like most people don't know that, like their emotions trigger them to act in a certain way, and they think that they acted in a certain way just because that's what they do, right? But then they're not aware that they could have chosen differently, right? They're not aware that they could chosen to react differently from that emotional reaction that they took.
Right.
They're just not aware, man. And it's so simple. And like knowing that, gives you a huge advantage. So man, so what do you think about that?
Well, it's one of those things that I can't put my finger on it, bro. You can take a religious standpoint from it. I've heard so many people talk about reincarnation and different things, that my answer to that is I'm okay not knowing exactly what death is. So with that said, I also embrace it with open arms. Like, I'm not afraid of dying. I know that one day I will, in my flesh body, cease to exist. That's okay. So it's one of those things that I've come to peace with it, in terms with it, where I said I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm okay with it, right? Because I tell people, when you present yourself a question that you can't quite put your finger on or understand, that's a gateway to drive yourself insane as a human being. And an example
Yeah.
I give people is, let's say two people break up in a relationship and they never got good communication or closure at the end. Normally, one of them or both of them is for years or even a lifetime. What happened, right? And it drives some of them insane, because they don't know how to be okay with not knowing. And I even say that to the real estate agents and
There you go.
entrepreneurs. If you're going to get to work and there's something you don't know, you can't let that cripple you. Be okay not having the answer and still moving forward. Because I think, again, that's something that can become a big block for a lot of people, not knowing and being okay with not knowing, right? And stepping into
Yeah.
something, saying, hey, I don't know, and it's okay. And I think a lot of people have issues with that. And
I
again,
don't know.
it's not going to change overnight, but it's something you need to be able to identify and work on, and say, okay, I need to work on this thing.
So that feeling, man, that feeling that is caused by whenever you go into something that you don't know, right? Like that feeling of feeling
Mhm.
stupid, right? Feeling uncertain, feeling whether you're gonna be able to make it or not. That's actually a feeling. So they did a study on Albert Einstein's brain, right? They wanted to find out if his brain was bigger or if he had anything different, in comparison to other brains, to see if
Yeah.
to find out what makes people smarter. And they didn't find anything. It was like the same. Actually, the brain of a stupid person is actually bigger than other brains. So they didn't find anything, but what they did find was like a little chemical that the brain produces called,
Mhm.
I don't remember what it's called, but it's like this um plastic thing that covers the electrical wires of wires to
Mhm.
insulate them from the outside and to make them last longer, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. And there's a chemical that does the same thing to your neural pathways in your brain.
Okay.
It insulates them, and the more of that chemical that you have, the more that you're able to learn, and the more
Mhm.
that you're able to retain that information. And that chemical is produced when you feel stupid, when you feel like, oh, I don't know. Whenever you
Mhm.
encounter something, like right now, I feel stupid, right? And I feel like this every single day, and I'm okay with it, right? And when you get that feeling, when you're going to go and learn something new, a new skill set, maybe you're gonna do a phone call, maybe you're gonna cold call, or whatever it is that you're not good at, and you feel
Yeah.
stupid. That's
Right.
when your brain produces more of that chemical, man. When you
Mhm.
embrace that,
Nice.
and when you're learning something new, and when you just take the leap and go for it, and you just fall flat on your face and you try again, and you become competent, right? So there's actually 4 levels, right? You're unconsciously incompetent, and then you become consciously incompetent.
Yep.
So that's when you produce more of that chemical, when you are consciously incompetent, when you know that you don't know.
Yep.
Most people stop there. They
Yep.
just give up, and they're like, oh no, you know what? I rather keep myself in my comfort zone, and
Mhm.
and and, and I'm good not knowing, right?
Yep.
That's where most people start. Most people stop, but if you just keep on going and you embrace that feeling of feeling stupid, and you'll become consciously competent, right? And then you'll learn new skills and you'll be smarter and you'll produce more of that chemical, man. That's crazy, right?
That's awesome, bro. Yeah. When you get to the unconscious competence, now you're the natural, like they say, right? Now, you know, it doesn't even take any brain power. You can just smoothly do it. But again, that takes work and dedication. And a lot of people, like you said, they stop, you know, I don't know. And it's okay. I don't want to put in the work.
Yeah. So, man, we have a couple of minutes. I do want to respect your time and actually end every single podcast with some questions. So it went a little bit different than most of my podcasts went, but I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you very much, man.
Of course.
So the first question is, what is a false belief that you have, that you see most beginners have, most real estate agent beginners have, that is completely false and that holds them back?
That you need to have some sort of like connection where you're at, right? I had that, not severely when I started, but I thought because I started new in my area, wasn't known for real estate, didn't know anybody in the industry, that would hold me back initially. I really thought that, and that's 100% false, like 1,000% false in anything that you do. But that for sure plagued my mind a little bit, and it made me worried, you know, in the beginning. Luckily I ditched it pretty quickly, but it was definitely like crippling in the beginning for me.
So like you need some type of connection. What do you mean, like, oh,
like know somebody? Like I need
experience.
a rich uncle who's in the industry. I need to know a broker who's successful. Like I need to know somebody in the industry who either has a reputation, has clients, has some sort of history, or has a name. Otherwise, I can't just get into real estate with no name and not knowing anybody and expect to be successful. You can't do it, right? It's almost like needing to get a vouch, like a celebrity vouch you and be like, oh yeah, he's legit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I
As
can
dumb
see
as
how
that
that.
sounds, bro, I believe that. As dumb as that sounds, I believe that. And a lot of people do, believe it or not. Like I know it sounds dumb because even I, thinking back now, I'm like, why the hell did I believe that? But a lot of people think that way. They think they either need a lot of
Well,
money or some sort of connection. Otherwise, like
it
no
makes
one's
sense,
gonna
right? They
take them
need
serious.
certainty.
Yeah.
Right, Tony Robbins. There's a quote from him that says that the quality of your life is determined by the amount of uncertainty that you can handle.
Yeah.
Right. So that belief comes from the need of certainty, and a lot of people have that, right? So that's great. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing that. So how did you overcome it? How did you break that limiting belief?
I adopted a mentality early on, and this is in association with something else. I got very upset when people, you know how people just give you random advice, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
you can't do that. Oh, you know, you want to get into real estate, you're too young. No one's going to take you serious. I remember hearing stuff like that. But I would challenge people. I said, how do you know that? Oh, you know, well, I wouldn't. I'm like, okay, so you wouldn't. Fair enough. But does that mean everybody? So I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Whatever this standard advice is or what I believe, I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to put it to the test. And that's what I started doing. I started putting all this stuff to the test. And I remember one time I went out door to door and I asked like 300 people if they would care, if they would care that I was new. And I talked to 300 people and only 3 of them told me that it would be significant enough to affect their decision that I was new or inexperienced. Only 3, bro, out of 300 people. That means 1% of people actually cared. 1%.
Cool, man. So I'm here. My camera just decided to turn off. I don't know why. But I'm
It's
here,
all
man.
good.
But yeah, that's a great way. That's a great way. So and I had that as well, man. So and I did the same thing. So I actually I was honest with one of my first clients, and I told him, you know what, I don't have any clients. You're actually going to be my first one, but that's good because that means that I'm gonna give you my all, right? So and then I was able to make the shift as well. The second question, man, is let's see, building relationships and networking, is key to be successful in the real estate game. So what networking strategy or advice can you give on that?
Man, you know, I built my business primarily through prospecting, but there's 2 things. You have the relationships and networking you do with your customers, and then the ones that you do with people in our industry. When I joined the industry, I got into coaching and did a lot of events. not just to learn, but for that very reason. And I said, by doing this, I'm going to connect with all the top people in the country in regards to real estate. So I went to a lot of events. I was a part of the coaching. I participated a lot. I added all of them on Facebook, got their numbers. So my ecosystem was full of a bunch of successful working agents who had the same mindset. But on the other side, I was very involved with my community, right? I volunteered a lot at elementary schools, high schools. I did donations to a lot of the athletic programs, because I remember even when I was a kid, sometimes they didn't have money to like give us new uniforms. So I did a lot on that end in regards to connecting with the community. Same thing when I would go door to door. I would go to businesses and say, hey, I'm going to be knocking on 100 doors a day. I would love to promote your business. Do you want to come on the back of my flyer? Right. So I started meeting all the local and small and medium-sized businesses and turning them into like business partners. But I would go to their location. I would shoot a video with them. I would offer to put them on my flyers. And before you know it, I'm out there, door knocking and going door to door. And I'm partnered with I'm partnered with like 100, companies, but it just took a little bit of effort. So the coaching and the events and then doing that with businesses is really how I networked and really grew my reputation, I think, in real estate, to answer it very quickly.
Nice. I like that, man. The last question is, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give your younger self at the beginning of your journey, 23, 24, whenever you started, knowing what you know now, to help yourself have faster, easier, and smoother success?
Get rid of anybody who doesn't support you.
Or anything, right?
Yeah, just distance yourself immediately from all the naysayers and the people who refuse to accept you as a man and what you want to do. That would probably be the biggest one, man, because I was pleading with certain people to try to stay in my life, but they were 100% against what I was doing. But I still fought to try to keep them in my life, and that caused me a lot of emotional distress, man. So you gotta burn the boats with the people who just are not a part of where you want to be in the future. If you guys are on diverging paths, you need to accept it. And I think that's a tough one, because for you to enter a new reality, you have to break the old paradigm. And I think a lot of people want to try to be successful, but take all their old habits and old friends and people with them. You can't do that, right? You can't do that.
Cool. Yeah, man, that's a great insight, because literally everything that I do on a daily basis is to like put me closer to what I want and to where I'm going. Right? How I sleep, how I eat, how I work out, like what I read, what I listen to. Everything is just like taking me there.
Yeah.
And I just and then most people don't have that, right? Most people have like people or things or circumstances that literally are like they give 2 steps forward, but then all of the things, habits, people, right, take them one back every time. So super important. So man, I've enjoyed. I don't know what's happening to my camera. It's going crazy. It turned off again, so I'm frozen. And so man, if anyone wants to learn more about you, maybe they want to become an agent, maybe they want to learn about real estate, about sales, but marketing, speaking. We didn't get to talk a lot about that, but you're a beast on that. That's literally what brought you to where you are. So they want to just know more. Where would be the best place to find more of your content?
YouTube is a good platform. Just type in my name, or you can go to my website, bryancasellacoaching.com. That's another avenue. But if you go on YouTube, man, I have 2,000 or 3,000 videos at this point. I have so much there that from there you can just fall into the rabbit hole.
Cool. YouTube. All right, man. Awesome. So thank you very much. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, man. Thanks for having me, bro. It's always cool to, have a more open discussion and not just talk about the standard stuff. So I enjoyed it.
Cool. Me too, man. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you later. Okay.
Cool. All right, my dude. Thank you.
Bye, man. Thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we're super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your social media as a post or a story, we have a special gift for all of those who contribute to the Modern Kings and Queens movement. So for those of you who decided to share this episode and help us spread our message, send me a message letting me know on any social media platform at Alex Ramirez, the Modern King. I have a special surprise for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.